Yeah.
It was pretty sweet. So we thought, oh, this is probably a good time to highlight Kromlech in our little Indie of the Week. So that's what we've chosen. Sparked off of the trailer. I mean, I could bring the trailer up for the new stuff that they're working on.
No, that'd be cool, yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, Kromlech, as part of their tabletop scenics range, which is their sort of terrain arm of the business, are working on a new set of, I think it's around 15 pieces of terrain, 12 or 15, I think it's 15 pieces of terrain, which are themed to Frostgrave, because Frostgrave is coming back in August with a new edition of the game. And so this terrain range is the official range that has been worked on with both Kromlech and Osprey Games in order to sort of go alongside the miniatures and all that kind of thing that you see from North Star and the like. So, some very, very cool looking pieces in this one.
It's a cool trailer too. People are hyped.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they've used a combination of resin casting. You just see the bell there, along with the laser cut, because it's those little incidental pieces that you can't really do particularly well in wood.
Yeah,
that really stand out. Then when if you see a bell tower without a bell, you just go, it's just a tower. If you see one with a square bell because it's been made out of wood, you're going, oh god, I wish you hadn't. I'd have rather gone and found a Christmas decoration. But they're using the fact that they have that capacity for the resin casting to add these incidental pieces to really set them up.
Do we know if this is pre-colored stuff or is this all painted?
It's all been painted. It's unpainted, unprimed, just standard plain wood.
So it's going to be the HDF stuff, MDF, HDF terrain with the resin pieces, as Jerry was saying there. And there's lots of really cool bits and pieces in it, like there's things like the bell tower, that's the mausoleum there. One of the big things about Frostgrave, if anyone's not heard of that game, which is pretty crazy because it's like one of the biggest skirmish games out there. But if you haven't heard about it, it's all very much like narrative, scenario-driven sort of skirmishing war games on the tabletop, where you take control of like a band of wizards and their sort of followers and companions. And go off in search of treasures within the frozen ruins of Felstad, which is this city that was devastated by magical power hundreds of years ago. And so a lot of these terrain ranges are based on things like the ruins or iconic buildings that would be needed in scenarios, or things that would be good, like, for example, there you can see some of the bigger ruin pieces that are good for like scatter terrain and all that kind of thing too. There's loads of little tiny pieces in there. The Living Museum, which we'll see in a second, this one is one of my favorite. I love the fact it's like ruined manor house. I think it's such a cool idea. And hopefully they actually do those little tiny incidental pieces. So things like the frame around the portrait and that kind of thing that you can then put something into or something.
Yeah, cool. Or even if they do, it's easy enough to get images off Tinterwebs and print them out. Yeah. But even if they had a downloadable sheet, an A4 sheet that you can just print out yourself of stuff you can cut out and stick on there. It has that Harry Potter feel that they have.
It does a little bit, actually, yeah.
Moving picture type things kicking off all over the place. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Frostgrave goes with the second edition, because it's been around now for quite a few years, and they've really built up a quite extensive range from North Star and Osprey. As far as both the game mechanics and books and incidentals go, plus the miniature range. But this is the first time they've had a dedicated terrain range to go with it.
It's cool. I can't wait to see more of that. It's coming out on the 8th, so that's like this Monday.
No, is it?
Is that pre-orders coming out on the 8th or something? It said at the end of the video.
Oh, the terrain.
Yeah, so probably I think it's going up for sale on the Monday. Yeah.
So all you need is a good gaming mat, which we'll be looking at some more gaming mats later in the show. Stay tuned for that. And you need to not wash your hair for ages so you can get plenty of dandruff, so you can stand there going like that to create the snow. That'd be amazing.
That's one of the cool things, actually, for those people that are wondering, like, how am I going to paint all that kind of stuff? Because of the idea that it's like these ruined cities and that kind of thing, airbrushing is like a major thing for this. Like, get out your airbrush, get some grey paint, some white paint, some sort of off-white paint, and just go to town on doing the buildings like that and the ruins, and then going in and doing the incidental detail with your brushes and things, because that's a really good way to sort of make it look good quickly. And then, obviously, use weathering stuff like snow and that kind of thing, because we've done that before on some of our tables.
Or if you don't have an airbrush, break out a couple of grey spray cans.
Exactly. You do metal cans,
just keep dusting back and forward.
And then just maybe get a little white dust right on the top, and you get that frosty top if you're going to go literally for the Frostgrave look. It's really cool stuff. let's get jumping into Kromlech's site. If you've never heard of Kromlech, now's your chance to get up to speed. So the stuff that we've just been watching in the trailer is part of their tabletop scenics range. So Kromlech's the overall company, and then it seems to break down into a couple of different sort of sites and stores and things like that. So we have the main Kromlech site here. This isn't where you come to get all the news and stuff, Jerry, is it? That they're getting up to.
Yeah. So any big news like the train, or like the fact that they've done shoulder pads specifically for the Astartes, that fan film. So if you want to match your own chapter to them, they put them on this. This the same sort of feed you would find if you followed them on Facebook or that type of thing. You've broken it. Break it.
Just straight away.
I don't know what you touched there. Don't touch that again.
No, I'm not going to touch that again.
But yeah, so this is just the sort of the media site, where any breaking news gets thrown up first.
So if we want to get stuck into the likes of what we've just seen when it comes out next week, the tabletop scenics range then on their bitsofwar.com website. That's their main shop. As I understand it, the Bits of War.
Yeah, if you're on the Kromlech website and just hit store, that brings you to this anyway. And then it's just a case of deciding what you're after, whether it's Norky bits like this. And I've seen this painted up. There's a quite impressive orc fort. It's very Gorka Morker-esque.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that's very cool about Kromlech is they sort of started out, I guess, like a lot of other little companies that doing things like orc alternative heads and that kind of thing. And so seeing them do the orc terrain was a really fun little addition into the mix, which isn't actually too old either, this orc stuff. It was actually quite recent in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's within the past couple of years, or even past year, I think. And when it's painted up, you can see yourself. It doesn't look, it takes you a while. You go, oh, that could be wood, or it could be resin, or it could be scratch, but I can't really work out what's going on here, which is nice because you don't always want square buildings that always look like they've been made out of wood. So there's different textures and patches and rivets and all sorts of things. And then I think there's also a add-on packs you can get that you can then put more detailing over the top of it to really make it look like it's a made thing and not a bought thing.
Yeah, it's one of the cool things I like about it, particularly when we're looking at that Bastion piece there. There was the fact that they've added the chains that link between the different sort of things like the spikes and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and
that's a really cool little additional bit, I think. So.
Also, who would have thought orcs would have been so into safety that they do not pass this railing? Watch out for that.
It's so that a grot can't push an orc off, but
that makes more sense.
It's high enough that an orc can kick a grot through the gap.
Very harsh, I feel.
We're just going to open a selection of stuff, so they've also got this more industrial looking stuff on here.
Yeah, well. Standard sci-fi. So if you're playing 40k or Infinity or Dead Zone or what have you, Star Wars Legion.
Yeah, good. Yep, Star Wars Legion, good idea.
These would all work because they are generically sci-fi or industrial. I mean, you can even get away with a lot of this in Fallout.
You can put that in Infinity as well.
Yeah. So it's just nice standard. It's not a specific range that has been made by some sort of green skin scumbag. They've been made by real people with jobs. So it's nice to see them. But obviously, they suit the 40k universe particularly well. I like the fact you can actually walk up and down the stairs. There's a few companies.
They put the space between the.
There's a few companies could learn from that. Just saying. There's nothing more infuriating than seeing a set of stairs and then going, all right, that's not happening. Let's just measure. Okay, he's about halfway up. We all remember he's halfway up.
I'm going to put a dice to remind me.
He's not going to balance there. So at least he's slot in. So you've got a gameable piece that's also a very nice piece to play with.
Yeah,
that's cool.
We always talk about is kind of like verticality and narrative-driven terrain. So terrain that it feels like it has a purpose rather than just being there as like line of sight blocking stuff.
Yeah.
Allowing you to have, because you can have a small 3x3 gaming space, particularly if you're playing something like Kill Team and using some of this terrain for that. But then you can make the sort of the depth and sort of and narrative of your table even more enhanced by having that verticality and making it like 3 or 4 stories high or something. Like there used to be gaming tables back at like Games Day or whatever that would be done on like entire huge like parts of the spire that were like 6 foot tall and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to do that, but you know, you can get a little bit more verticality out of it.
Nice if you've got the room. That Hive Cathedral is amazing.
That's epic looking, isn't it?
I'm fairly sure that is actually isn't that the Notre Dame just been reworked as well, or is it?
Could be.
Yeah.
It certainly looks as flammable as Notre Dame was.
It does.
It also reminds me of something from Assassin's Creed as well.
Yeah, there you go then.
That's really cool. I didn't realize they had buildings quite as big as that.
Oh yeah.
The pure propaganda post. It's not propaganda.
It's the truth, isn't it? Right?
Anybody who says it's propaganda, we've got this nice gentleman over here who wants to talk to you.
Oh, here we go. Look at the size of this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And the thing they do as well is that they make sure that there's space on the top for you to put units and like maybe the stand of a flying vehicle or something. So if you do want to put your units on a higher level and have them shooting down or whatever, you can do that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. So
that's cool. And then it's just cool the individuality that the buildings seem to have as well. The cathedral, the likes of this.
Yeah, they've got different themes running in sort of sets, so you can have your industrial world or your orc world or your hive world, and again, those things, the statues and the like, where they've gone, well, you know, these are things we can't do in wood, but we can cast them quite happily to include. I mean, I'd be quite happy with that on many gaming tables. Because who doesn't want a Grim Reaper statue?
Yeah, it's cool the way they've gone. Right, let's not just do the buildings, but let's do the accessories. Because when we were building our big, epic 40k gaming table, we were printing out statues and things. We were having to go off and source them from elsewhere.
From other places. Yeah, that's now, especially where they've got things like the alcoves ready built for them. Because I've got bits and pieces from other companies, like I have a Roman triumphal arch.
Oh yeah,
it's very plain. But then if you go and find some 15mm and 20mm and 28mm Romans, then you can glue them on as statues and facade and stuff.
Yeah.
But until you do that, it's nice, but it's not finished.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can go in there and go whole hog, really.
So whole range then. Looking forward to seeing this other stuff. This is a good example of, you said, if it's clearly not painted, then it's just bare wood.
Yeah,
you take in and do the job.
Yeah, but there's enough detail on there that you can get away with relatively quick paint jobs, washes, pigments, that sort of thing. Or if you are handy with an airbrush, you could go to town on them. So.
Sweet. Right, let's move on into the other stuff they've done. So if you want to check out the tabletop scenics bit, that's really cool. But we started talking about resin pieces. So let me try and find the resin
on the
pieces.
link, just the first one you got there. You should be able to scroll down and find the individual pieces. So.
Right. So if you're into your 40k and stuff like that, they've got lots of really cool accessories. Because that's pretty much where Kromlech seemed to come from. Kromlech's been around for as long as I can remember, like at least
3 days.
Well, at least I would say at least somewhere around the last 10 years, maybe.
I think as soon as I started working with you guys, I think the Kromlech was still, so that's like 7 years ago, something like that, which is pretty crazy. So
that orc band is particularly good, especially these days. And it's the fact that GW don't do things like this anymore.
Yeah,
which offends me, because the orcs had great bands, heavy metal looking band models that were just fun and whimsical and amusing, and the fact that they've gone in there and added in Slash or Freddy or whoever it is. It's like with the incidental bits pieces that they do, there is a set of heads. They're wearing top hats. They're called gentle orcs or something like that. I'm just going, you know what, I really just want a whole squad of orcs in top hats because reasons.
Is this something they do? That they literally
it'll be lurking.
Because you can do conversion bits by race.
Oh, well, here we go. Conversion bits by race.
And then check out greenskins, and then just scroll down until you find heads. So they'll be scattered around. But yeah, it just it really amuses me. Or if you want to do hillbilly orcs, or if you want to do western orcs or pirate orcs, they've just gone, you know what, these things are meant to be fun, let's just make them. There they are, look at those gentle orc heads. Why would you not have a squad of those? Go, which squad of orcs are your knob squad, your elites? Well, clearly they're the ones in top hats.
Yeah,
swish.
They're the important ones. They're knobs, or speed freaks, or whatever happens to be.
Man, this range has really grown since the last time I was on the website.
Oh yeah. They've done a lot of stuff over the last couple of years, sort of building up their range. So it's not just orcs, but they've done humans and space knights. If you want to do like space marines and that kind of thing too. So it's definitely a company that has found a really nice sort of nook in the industry, and providing things to help people create slightly more individual looking armies, which I think is a really key thing. Because obviously you can make things as official as you want, but I think there's something a little bit special about having that little bit of pointed difference between things. So you can have a Space Marine army, but if you have a Space Marine army that has kind of different heads in the mix or different backpacks and that kind of thing, I think it really makes a difference.
Especially if you're doing something like you're making your own chapter.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to paint your squad of Smurfs in a different color. But if you can actually theme them more by adding Sashimona style back pads or top hats on your orcs or whatever it happens to be, it reinforces the fact that it's your army, and it really becomes then a very unique army to you. And you can do all sorts of weird and wacky things with them. You can use it as a stepping off point.
Let's go to miniatures and see what there is. Because they've got some really cool tanks and things like that. A lot of the range is orc-based because it's just epic.
Yeah, orcs are always the best. I mean, the fact that they do essentially the Deutsche Afrika Corps in orc form, and then they do things like see the Goliath mines. Stop. Where's your hand going? Right.
Go that's it. Yep.
There we go. Yep. So they were demolition mines. Used by the Germans in World War II. They were essentially little mini tanks that they would drive forward with like 1 ton of explosive in them, and drive them forward with a remote control, and then blow up bunkers. And I love the idea that they've got an orc version which is just a big Acme round bomb with a fuse at the top. Going, it's ridiculous, but they'd make excellent grot tanks. Just as something different.
They would be cool, yeah. It's one of the things I've always talked about is the idea of not like doing orcs, but not doing them as a orc army, doing them just all as grots and Gretchen.
Yeah.
And I've always loved the idea of doing that, and then using things like those tiny little bombs or some of the big contraptions they have, like the tanks and things like that, and throwing that into the mix to give them a bit more flavour and using it as counts as stuff. I think it's a really cool idea. So.
Well, I don't know at what point it went away from it, but for years, the Greenskins were always referred to as goblinoid races on the grounds that the goblins were the smart ones.
Yes.
They were small, crafty, smart, and did all the thinking. And the orcs who thought they were in charge were just being manipulated by the grots. Because the grots
doing all the bashing,
we're not big enough to beat people or get shot at. They'll do it for us. But at some point that just went away, and it just became grots are things to be bullied. I'm very much the red gobbo. Rebel Grots for the win.
Definitely, man. Yeah.
I'm still trying to find the tanks. I didn't realize this section would be that big if I clicked into it.
The Afrika Corps orcs. They're just amazing. And they are great because, there used to be the likes of the Storm Boys and the Blood Axe Commandos, which were very heavily German themed. So it's just nice to see them.
Yeah, well, it's a cool thing because obviously one of the big things and the inspirations behind the orcs from Games Workshop originally was that they were like football hooligan style Brits, taking it as like a parody of that. So having them sort of work that kind of World War II sort of aesthetic into the orcs as a whole is a really good idea, I think.
It was the orcs are so rebellious and ridiculous and hooligans and unsystematically, just mental.
Yeah.
And then you got the ones who rebelled, and they rebelled by tidying the rooms and nice uniforms and following all the orders and rules. And the Blood Axe Commandos were the rebellious teenage orcs who followed the rules and played nice, or given value of nice for an orc. But, So the sci-fi / 40k-ish stuff is extensive and very interesting.
Yeah, we had a sort of quick look at it when we were flicking through. But one of the things they also do, which was quite recent, was they did like the kits for the knights. So if you wanted to do like kit bashed styled Imperial Knights and stuff, the Fallen Knights bundle.
There we go, Fallen Knights. So
check
this stuff out.
That goes over the frame, the standard plastic frame of the Imperial Knights with a new sort of chaos look to it, which I think is pretty cool. So.
Yeah, and I mean,
so it's alternative armor and that kind of thing, which was then done by Forge World and that kind of stuff. But it's really nice to see someone doing their own little thing for it as well. So,
and if you're rocking a Chaos Knight, things like that generally tend to be features on the battlefield anyway. So spending a bit more to make your own, again, sort of more unique or more detailed is worth it, because it's something that will be a standout piece.
Yeah. Thing is, as well, you could also, as you can see here, just collect basically an entire orc army just from Kromlech if you wanted to.
Just orcs galore. I mean, I found some flyers.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I like the guy chucking the bomb out.
Yeah, well, some people have Bombay doors or clever levers, and some people just have a sack of bombs on their knees that they just reach into and chuck at people. Yeah. Although weirdly, that is how combat began in World War One with aircraft.
Throw a brick out the side of your biplane.
They used to throw. They made like lawn darts, like just big spikes that they would wing down at people in the trenches, and that's how aerial combat began.
It's very Warhammer.
So orcs have just went. You know what? We don't need to improve on that. Gravity takes care of everything, so we're good to go.
And they've got a whole range of squats up by the looks of them too.
Squats.
I think
I've not seen their squats. What?
I think this is what 1-1. Something like that.
Yeah.
Heavens to Betsy, they are squats. Oh my god. I didn't know they had these.
Yeah. Ben, you gotta go and check this section out here. Click there, right?
Don't click there.
Look at that.
Oh no.
Focus, Ben, focus.
Because this would be a good opportunity to do a Forge Fathers Force now and use these guys in Warpath or something.
Oh yeah. Or Dead Zone. Oh, you get a really nice Dead Zone Force I mean, I was going to say cheaply. It'll be more expensive than buying the actual Dead Zone models, but because you have a huge army, you can do the little bespoke things.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I approve.
It's an absolutely gigantic range of stuff here.
Chances are, if you can think of it or you're after it, it's in there somewhere. And jugs. You don't see enough jugs and stuff. Especially in... you tend to see... And this is... I know RPG players will do this, and they're wrong because they shouldn't be using miniatures in RPGs. But you'll find it for historics. You'll find companies will make produce and jugs and things to put on the tables in your buildings. You have that. But when we play sci-fi, you rarely put the furniture into a building. Whereas if you're playing, I mean, you've got the massive cathedrals, so somebody will have like a squad inside, and then somebody else will assault them. But inside there's nothing there. Whereas having pews and then having a altar to the emperor at one end that they can fight around or through, or fighting through a tavern, and that's make it look lived in, make it look like an actual real world thing.
Yeah, it's one of the things I always hate about like seeing some terrain that people put down the table and then there's nothing in the building. It's like, what is the point? If you're going to have a really nice building or something, have tables and chairs and all sorts in it and that kind of thing. So
I'm currently doing some pots for my Dark Age / Roman stuff, because it's not a village if there are no pots and things sitting around outside.
Yeah, you've gone potty in lockdown.
I have gone potty in lockdown. Yeah.
When you remember Time Team, right? They always find pieces of pots.
Always
pots. So there's got to be pots in the historical war games.
You see how I paint those, because they're all glued to cocktail sticks, and I've got a Dremel, and my plan is to spin the Dremel and just put a paintbrush and put it there, so it'll give me perfect rings and stuff instead of trying to hand paint it, because you can change the speed in the Dremel. So I'm not going to spin it so it's freaking out. But I think pots, jugs, and bottles are the way forward. I want to see more actual lived-in pieces on the tabletop. I want to see cars and infinity. That's great. Why do we not see them in 40K? Why do we not see what, these orcs haven't just arrived into an empty, sterile, abandoned imperial city. There must have been civilians there. There must have been things going on. And it's a very good way of doing scattered terrain anyway. So I want to see more. I want to see more non-army stuff from people. Anyway, yes, kudos to Kromlech for doing jugs.
Yeah, doing jugs. Before we move on from Kromlech, we should definitely touch on the historical stuff that they did, because I didn't even know they did historical stuff until we literally sat down for filming, and you went, "Have you seen this?" And I went, "Nope." Check this stuff out, peeps.
So yeah, they are fond of doing the Polish. I suppose one of these things, Polish company, Polish sculptors, obviously they'll be interested in doing this, and it's nice to see because so often you see the main 4 or 5 nations that fought in World War II, always, every time a new range comes out, it will be German or British or American or Soviet or blah, 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 blah. There were an awful lot of people fighting in other countries and for a short amount of time or fighting longer, as partisans, and they never really get a particularly wide range, or if you want to do fins, you're often just told, whether you can buy these heads from this company and then otherwise just use Germans because they mostly got their stuff from Germany. And here, actually having a fairly extensive range of Polish, yes, it's a very short period of fighting at the start in 39, but it's a very important part of Second World War. In fact, possibly the most important part, apart from the end.
This is when I was looking at this range and putting it together into like news stories and things, couple sort of like a year ago or whatever. This is where I learned about how fierce the fighting was of a lot of the Polish troops as well. Like a lot of the time they tend to get made like a joke of, sort of like, they were rolled over. They were just the people that got invaded.
You hear an awful lot of what was essentially the German propaganda.
Yeah,
I mean, you'll hear people talk about Polish cavalry attacking German tanks and stuff like that, which didn't happen. I think there was one cavalry regiment did attack a armored force, but they knew what they were doing, and they didn't ride up on their horse and hit it with a sword, which is
they're
German.
not idiots. Yeah,
they're not idiots. But post Second World War, that has stuck. Whereas in actual fact, yes, they capitulated relatively quickly, but the fighting was intense, and the fighting, they fell back in waves up to the defense of Warsaw. So it's not like it was a one and done, we're in, we're out with no casualties type of thing. It was extensive, and they had a very good military. They were being crushed on both sides as well.
That's it. We've touched on this a couple of times. It's basically you can't fight on 2 fronts on your own.
No.
You couldn't take on the likes of Russia, the Soviet Union, and
we learned this from London Malaria and Babylon 5.
Yeah.
Only an idiot fights a war on 2 fronts. Only the heir to the throne of the kingdom of idiots fights a war on 17 fronts. And it's the same sort of thing. The Russians say they didn't invade Poland. They did. Dress it up whatever way you want. You can't go, we didn't invade Poland, we invaded the fascist occupied. But balls, you were knee deep in there right from the get-go. So it's really nice to see an early war army. And I think especially if you're a bolt action player, 1930 or 39 to 41 is a fantastic period to play. Not only do you get the sort of the initial American landing in North Africa, but you get a lot of small armies. You don't have the ridiculous tanks. Not everybody is going to be fielding IS-2s and Tiger 2s everywhere. So the armor that exists is capable of being knocked out by infantry with some form of armament. So it makes it a more interesting game. And being able to play smaller, tighter games like this are more interesting and more thematic. They're more historically accurate, dare I say it, than everybody playing the same late war Germans, the same late war Americans with Pershings, and these seeing things like that. The Polish armored car, which is very similar to the British Rolls Royce, may have actually been based on the Rolls Royce. But late war, it would be laughable, but in early war, it's a more complex challenge. So certainly this range is very good for that.
This range is epic. I had no idea it was going to be this extensive.
Yeah, they started off just doing the infantry, and then they walked through to do sort of the cavalry options and the command options, and then just basically moved on to all the guns and vehicles as well. So
here we go, the Cav. I love this bit about the early war. I like the idea of there being horses and tanks fighting with each other, essentially.
Yeah. I mean,
because even the Germans during this period had a serious amount of mounted units as well.
More of their stuff was still horse-based than actually automated. Again, that's more German propaganda, the fact that they weren't all sitting in half tracks and towing everything with machinery. When they went into Poland, certainly, and when they went into France, a large amount was still regular, sort of interwar horse-pulled carriages and that sort of thing.
And that's what interests me about the early war, Jerry, is this idea of, let's have large cavalry units. And you're like, what? In World War II? You're like, yeah. When you see this, this is going to be epic.
Yeah. It's an excellent way to get around the table. And if you have a comparable force in late war, the only difference would be instead of being on horses, they might be on motorbikes.
Yeah. So just to round that off, they even do terrain and stuff then for Poland.
Yep, they do.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I mean, regardless of whether you're playing late, early, or whatever, that's perfect for Eastern Front. Whether you'll be playing First World War or even earlier, you could play Napoleonics. This would work for it as well. So that this is just a great range of terrain that works for that geographic location and covers probably about 100, 150 years, because there won't be any noticeable changes from mid to late 1800s through to sort of mid 1900s. It's fine for that.
Yeah.
Effectively, the range they do allows you to play out, an entire campaign in Poland during that sort of period of history, really. So it's very cool. And I believe actually there's a bolt action supplement that sort of focuses on that, I think, now, which you could pick up and stuff. So there's definitely stuff out there for you to go and check out. So
so if you're into 40k, there's stuff for you. If you're into fantasy, there's probably stuff for you. I didn't expect the big historical thing. Hey, historical players. Bet you're surprised too. You're thinking, I'm going to tune out because it's all going to be sci-fi and fantasy. Heck no! Epic! I didn't expect that at all.
Money supermarket.
So if you visit kromlech.eu, there'll be a wee button you can click that'll then take you through to Bits of War. Is it bitsofwar.com, which is their main website for selling?
Just hit the online store. Store takes you through to that.
And then in there you'll find the tabletop scenics and all that goodness.
Yeah.
Right. Looking forward to that on Monday.